Tomorrow, President Trump flies to Beijing to meet Xi Jinping, and you're going to hear a lot about it. The tariffs, the trade deals, the soybeans, the Boeing jets, and all of that matters. But here's what you want to pay your attention to. Days after Trump leaves Beijing, Vladimir Putin is expected to land in the exact same airport, meet the same people, and probably walk the same red carpet. Xi Jinping is hosting the American president and the Russian president back to back. And the way she treats each of them, the ceremony, the body language, the level of warmth, will tell you more about where the world is headed than anything either leader says at the podium. Now, let me explain. But first, hit like and don't forget to subscribe. And you better hit like right now. Yeah, right now. I do this twice a week. And also don't forget to subscribe to my Substack for more. And now let's go. And let's start with what we know. President Trump arrives Wednesday. He'll get the state dinner, the handshakes, the photo ops. In 2017, when President Trump visited Beijing for the first time, Xi Jinping gave him the full treatment. The private tour of the Forbidden City, afternoon tea, an opera performance. It was extraordinary. The last meeting President Trump had with Xi Jinping, he rated 12 out of 10. This time, it's being called a summit, not a state visit. So the protocol will be different. We can even say a step down. And just days later, Putin arrives, and Putin's relationship with Xi is different. It's deeper. It's more structural. Last year, Xi Jinping personally flew to Moscow for Russia's Victory Day parade. He sat next to Putin on Red Square. That was a massive show of solidarity. This year, Xi didn't come. While Putin held his most stripped-down Victory Day parade. No tanks, no missiles on Red Square, and no Xi Jinping. Well, it's not because Xi Jinping didn't want to show solidarity with Putin. It's because there's one thing about that kind of power. The center, Beijing, doesn't travel to the periphery, Moscow, too often. The client comes to the patron. And sure enough, it's Putin who's going to Beijing. So why should you care about who gets a nicer dinner in Beijing? Well, it's because China is now the single most important external force, keeping wars going. Wars. Beijing supplies the dual-use components, the machine tools, the microelectronics, the things that go inside the missiles that hit Ukrainian cities every single night. Beijing supplies the same to Tehran, in addition to satellite imagery of the US military bases. China is Russia's and Iran's financial backbone. 40% of Russia's imports now come from China, and over 90% of bilateral trade is conducted in yuan and rubles, not dollars. And China is the biggest buyer of Iran's oil. So when Xi sits down with Trump on Thursday and then sits down with Putin the following week, Ukraine's, Iran's, Taiwan's future depends on what Xi Jinping does with that. And Xi Jinping is not choosing between Trump and Putin. He's managing both of them at the same time. From Trump, Xi Jinping will extract trade concessions, Boeing jets, agricultural purchases, maybe some loosening on chip exports. From Putin, he gets something even more valuable, a dependent who sells him oil at a great discount, and who votes with China in the UN, and who can never, ever leave because Putin has nowhere else to go, and there will be no one different in Beijing anytime soon. Last September, Putin and Xi were caught on a hot mic in Beijing, walking side by side and chatting. And what were they chatting about, those great guys? About organ transplants, about living to 150 years old, about immortality. Well, that's quite some small talk. And that's not small talk pressured by American election deadlines. There are no elections. No. These are two leaders who know that they will both be in power long after January 2029, when President Trump's term ends. They're playing the game measured in generations, not election cycles. So when people in Washington ask, can Trump convince Xi to cut the lifeline to Russia? The answer is no. No. And not because Xi likes Putin, but because this arrangement benefits China enormously. And probably nothing Trump can offer in these 2 days of meetings can change the structural incentives of a relationship that's been building for years. Putin's dependence on Chinese supplies for equipment and goods that sustained his war has reached unprecedented levels. This isn't a relationship Russia can exit. It's a dependency Russia can't survive without. And this brings us back to the split screen. One analyst at Brookings flagged something I think is exactly right. Trump may be sensitive to being perceived as upstaged if Beijing rolls out the red carpet for Putin immediately after his departure. And think about what Putin brings to that meeting. He just held a Victory Day parade where he couldn't even put tanks on Red Square. He shut down mobile intranet across Moscow because he was so afraid of Ukrainian drones buzzing over the Kremlin. Is that the man that can be called a strong strategic partner? Nope. No. That's not a partner. That's a dependent. If Xi treats that dependent better than he treats the American president, for example, warmer language, a better ceremony, a stronger joint statement, that tells you everything. It tells you that China's long-term bet is on Russia, not on the US. It tells you that the dual-use shipments will keep on flowing. It tells you that satellite imagery will keep on going. It tells you that no amount of soybean deals will change Beijing's calculation about Ukraine war, Iran war, and Ukraine will continue to pay the price. And the US will continue to pay the price. So here's what I'm asking you to do this week. Don't just watch the Trump-Xi summit. Watch what comes next. Watch whether Trump even mentions Ukraine or what Xi says about Iran. And then watch Putin's arrival. Watch the ceremony, the body language. Because the way Xi Jinping treats these two men back to back, same city, same month, will tell you more about where the world is heading than any press conference or communique ever could. Keep your eyes on Beijing. That's where all the ongoing and maybe even future wars are being decided. Now hit like and see you next time.